Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning and preparation for life on the road to Santiago, as well as tips, tricks and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. Today we have a guest on the line all the way from Liverpool, England, and Gabriel, you actually biked the Camino, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've been back about a week, but I biked it from Bilbao to Santiago.
And just so we can kind of go back to the exact time and place where you first heard about the Camino and you thought, right, I'm going to do that. Can you remember exactly where you were when you made the decision?
I can't remember exactly where I was, but it's only been the past 6 months that I've actually known about the Camino. My sister lives in Madrid, and she did a 5-day Camino. I can't remember where she started, maybe Sadia or something, and then she finished in Santiago. And she told me about it, and she told me to watch the film The Way, so I did. And then I said to her, I will do it next year. And she said, well, why don't you do it this year? You're off work. Been off work with stress and anxiety for the past 6 months. I've just returned. She said, why don't you do it this year? You've got the money, you've got the time. So I said, okay, I will do. So I hummed and hawed about where to fly to. Should I fly to Madrid? Should I fly to Miraron? Should I go to Bilbao? And this was, it was falling away from my grasp. For whatever reason. So one day I just woke up in the morning, booked a flight to Bilbao, and thought, right then, let's do it with little or no planning. But it was purposeful that I didn't plan so much, because I kind of just wanted to go with the flow.
So you made the decision after the recommendation from your sister. One morning you just woke up and said, right, I'm going to do this thing, booked the flight, no planning, which is sometimes the best way to do it as well, because if you think too much about stuff, you could potentially talk yourself out of it.
True.
That's true. You actually cycled the Camino del Norte, so the North Way, which runs obviously a bit further north than the Camino Frances. So tell us a bit about that.
Well, I flew into Bilbao, and I originally intended to go east and start in Irún, but I quickly realised that it would be, for me, foolish to go east. I wanted to continue forward. I don't like the idea of going backwards, if I can help it. So I arrived in Bilbao, stayed in a hostel there for the night. It was nice, interesting city, but I was very eager to get into the countryside and the Camino as I imagined it, or I'd seen it on the film. So off I set on my bike through a beautiful port town of Bilbao, and then I arrived at my first albergue, which was in Anton, which was very nice, very, very nice. Great guy called Giuseppe there who received me, and I spent the night playing cards with 5 retired Belgians. We had a lovely meal. It was a donativo, so I gave what I had. I think I gave €8 of some eggs and a spicy tomato sauce, nice bottle of wine, and then some kind of almond spirit or something to give us at the end. So it was a good introduction. So the first night in Bilbao was in a hostel. It was interesting. It was okay. I enjoyed it. Played the guitar with these, I think they were Austrian students. But the next night, the first night in the albergue was where I got a taste of the magic, and it grew from there.
Brilliant. So it's curious for me to talk to you as well, Gabriel, because I've walked the Camino Portuguese, I've walked the Camino Frances. So to get a taste of what the Camino del Norte is like, and if that camaraderie exists on the Camino del Norte as well. So that first night in the albergue, or probably the second night, wasn't it? You said once you got out into the countryside, sounded like a typical Camino night in an albergue. And did it go on like that?
Very, very much so. Very much so. I mean, every night was different. Every night was brilliant. Some were magical. But everyone was great, and all of the people that I met on the Camino were fantastic people. And I mean, I'm quite I'm quite a confident person anyway, and I love to meet new people. But I'd say for someone that isn't confident, just accept people as they are, and they'll generally be good. As I say, I haven't seen any aggression or any kind of confrontation anywhere on the Camino. Everyone just seems to go with the flow. There seems to be a magic on the trail that just it's infectious.
It really is. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like for me, it was like I'd found some kind of golden age, some kind of dream world utopia where the biggest social problems were just snoring, and that was it in the Albergs, and that was it. That was like that would be what they debate in the Camino Parliament. Talking to the Albergs. Lots of people talk about having trouble getting to sleep, and those kind of things. Just comfort issues. Have you got any Alberg survival tips?
Well, I haven't, and I just want to quickly say that, but I want to go back to my first night in Bilbao, which was interesting. Survival tips, obviously, are earplugs. I mean, I knew that from my sister. She wears them anyway in day-to-day life off the Camino, and so do I. Take a pair or a few pairs of the pink and yellow squashy earplugs. You can get them on Amazon. They're brilliant. And you'll get a good night's sleep. And guess what? People do snore. And if that's going to bother you, then don't go on the Camino. You're going to be staying in a dormitory, with 20, 30, 8 people, whatever it is. And some of them are going to snore, and some of them are going to bang in the night, and some of them are going to get up to go to the toilet. So if you can't cope with that, it's going to be difficult. But just to go back to the first night in Bilbao, so I've got there, it was pouring with rain. I've got my bike, I've got the saddlebag on it, and I've arrived in Bilbao, which was a little bit seedy. It was nice, but it felt a bit seedy. It felt a bit wild. So I couldn't find a hostel, so I'm going round and round. And there's a few lads standing outside bars, and I thought, they'll eye me bike up, what's going to happen here? So I was a little bit paranoid. Anyway, I get to the hostel, and the girl on reception was great. And she said, right, then I'll put your bike upstairs. There was no lock on the door, so I'm feeling a little bit cautious. And then I've gone into the room, and she said, this is your room. And it was a 4 or 8 bed room. And my first introduction to the Camino was the guy said, be careful. He said, I had €100 stolen from my locker. So this is my first thing. And I thought, oh no, is the rest of the Camino going to be like this? Well, I quickly realized that the rest of the Camino was nothing like that. So it was such a contrast. And quickly, over the period of few days, my cares and worries of living in a big city like Liverpool, for instance, quickly dissolved. And I found that I could leave my passport, my money and everything out on the bed, and just nothing would get taken. I could leave my bike outside an alberg in the middle of the countryside, and it just would be there, unlocked, and it was okay. So I think I had to learn a lot about trust, but I learned it quickly. So that first night was a total contrast to the rest of the trail.
So it was a bad first impression that didn't last, thankfully.
It didn't last at all. But it was interesting that it happened on my first night, and it didn't happen to me. But it was interesting that it happened on my first night to provide a contrast.
Well, that's really interesting, because the same thing happened to my wife and I walking the Portuguese Camino. And I mean, we really didn't like Lisbon. We didn't feel safe in Lisbon. Very similar experience. I'm surprised you felt that way about Bilbao, because I've been to Bilbao as well, and But I think when you are a pilgrim, especially when you got an expensive bike and your gear with you, you're probably a bit more protective. But Lisbon definitely gave my wife and I the same impression, and that didn't last the very next day. That just disappeared as well, because on the Portuguese Camino, the Portuguese people are so lovely. They're so helpful.
Yeah.
They speak amazing English. And it's just like the experience of Lisbon to the rest of the Camino. Like you said, Bilbao to the rest of the Camino del Norte. It's just a massive contrast. So surviving in the albergs, you mentioned taking earplugs. It's interesting because I think it was Johanna in our episode 11, a lovely girl from Germany. She mentioned trying to sleep away from staircases where there's lots of noise, or sleeping away from doors, finding a quiet bottom bunk in the corner, something like that. So those are other alberg survival tips. But one thing on your kit list that you couldn't have done without, you wouldn't have been able to survive without?
100% for me. I can give you the list here of for people that walk. It's different on a bike, but for me, definitely earplugs, 100% essential. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So long as I had my earplugs, my passport, my money, and my bike, I think I could have done without much else.
Yeah.
But without earplugs, it would have been a major problem. And there was one night where I didn't put them in, and I had a troubled sleep. But just to go down this, I mean, for me, take a few pairs of really good quality socks, or even 2 pairs of really good quality woolen socks. They're so much better. They really are. An Italian guy, I got to an albergue and I was completely soaked through. I literally had nothing to wear. I put everything to wash. And he said, listen, take a pair of socks. He said, you can have them, which was nice. So I took a pair of his Dickies woolen socks they wear. And I've got them on now. They're my favourite socks. They're really good quality socks. Whereas I took about 12 pairs of socks, not all of them good quality. Pack light, 100%. Don't pack too much. I took far too much. I took about 12 t-shirts, 6 pairs of shorts. It's just not necessary. Take good quality, lightweight items made of fibres that dry very quickly. Like gym gear, I suppose.
Yeah, like quick dry nylon, polyester, that kind of stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. And take some of that. I think it's called kinesis tape. Is it the blue tape for your feet?
Kinesis tape.
I mean, I didn't need to use it, but I've seen other people using it, and I think it's just a little roll of tape. If you don't need it, you can give it to someone that does. And as for equipment, that for me would. That's essential. That's essential.
So
what I've just said.
Dickies woolen socks, some kinesis tape, and of course,
earplugs.
Remember your earplugs. Yeah.
100%.
Do you have obviously on a bike, and we as walkers really appreciate you thinking of us and giving those tips for us walkers. And I think it's interesting to talk to someone who has biked it to see what it's like, because I'm curious what it's like on a bike. I saw a few, I think they call them peregrinos, kind of whizzing past me and stuff.
Yeah.
And, most of the time they're always very jovial, very amiable, likable. They say buen camino as they pass. I don't remember ever having a problem with someone kind of going too fast or putting me in any danger. But if you are a walker, what would you say? What would you say to a walker just to say if you can hear a bike coming? Because sometimes I found myself like trying to get out of their way, but I would end up getting in their way. So what would we have to do if we hear a bike coming? Well, might be stating the obvious, but you take the right side of the road, the left side of the road. You're going to ring a bell. You're going to talk. What should we do?
I've read that some walkers are opposed to cyclists. So I suppose for the cyclist, first of all, just show respect. And if you're coming against a group of walkers, don't go too fast, or give them a wide berth. I mean, the Camino generally is wide enough that you can give someone a wide berth. Although I don't have a bell, my brakes were squeaking because of overuse, I suppose. I mean, my bike took a battering, so they could always hear me coming. And I'd always slow down because I'd always say buen camino at the very least, or I'd have a conversation. I'd make a connection usually. So for walkers, I suppose just keep doing what you're doing. For cyclists, just be careful, I mean, I was careful anyway for the simple fact that if I was going downhill, I wouldn't want to go too fast, because if I did sustain an injury, it would certainly be the end of my Camino, and I certainly wouldn't want to crash into a walker, and cause them to have to stop walking. So yeah, just take it easy and be very aware of what's coming up in front of you.
Yeah, so if you are a cyclist, on Gabriel's recommendation, just slow down so you can get the chance to say buen camino and connect with the people that you're passing. And for the walkers, just kind of step aside, make as much space as possible, I guess, and we can all share the trail with harmony.
Yeah, I suppose that in closing to that question, the Camino is for walkers. So as a cyclist, be aware of that. Of course, you shouldn't go racing down some kind of hill and crash into someone, and go slow and absorb nature, not just absorb connections with people, but enjoy what's there. You don't need to do 100k a day. Some days I did 20, some days I did 85. Some days it just depends. Just go with the flow and go with what feels right.
And it's interesting that I wondered if a cyclist would be able to connect with and tap into and feel and carry it home with them, that Camino magic. From the post that you put in one of the Camino Facebook groups, it seems that you really did.
Oh, I did 100%, and what's very interesting, and it's different from if you walk. I know because I've spoken to a number of walkers and a number of groups. If you walk, you kind of can walk as a group, and although you may split up into single walkers during the day, of an evening, by and large, you'll generally be staying in the same albergue. I know there's a lot of albergues in towns, but you'll have this kind of constant, consistent connection every day, which is fantastic. When I was on the bike, I would kind of drift from group to group because obviously most days I'd be covering a lot more miles. So we'd wake up in the morning in an albergue. I'd have spent a really nice evening with the guys. And although I'd only known them for a very, very short time, they felt like family, which is a very strange thing for someone who hasn't done the Camino to even contemplate. But you do get such a warm bond in such a short time. And then the next morning we'd get up and I'd generally hit the road. It depends, about 9:30. I'm not one of these early risers. I'd get up, I'd have a breakfast and what have you. And then I would see every single person from the night before, every single person. So I'd see the slow ones, the fast ones, the ones who were super fast, the ones who got up really early. And then I would go then and I would leave them and I probably wouldn't see them again. And then I'd go a bit further and then I'd encountered another group that had been walking since the beginning of the Camino, but I'd be accepted within them. And again, I'd know them like family within a very short time, and we'd share a meal together or we'd share a bottle of wine or we'd talk. And then maybe the next day, I may see somebody from a few days ago that may have got a bus, for instance, because some people do get buses, or I might have had a slow day one day, and then I'd catch up with people that I'd seen from a couple of days ago. And again, I'd embrace them like a long-lost brother. So it was a very different experience, but I'd have maybe more connections, maybe not as deep, but deep enough for me, with a greater number of people along the way.
And that complements the time that you have on your own on the bike, I suppose.
It's a contrast, and it's a beautiful contrast. Just like going out of a forest for days, going through towns and forests, and then happening upon somewhere like Gijón, for instance, which is quite urbanised. It's very interesting, that contrast of being alone in nature, and then of a night time, every single night, being surrounded by a new group of wonderful people. It's the contrasts, I think, that make you appreciate. For instance, if you're in nature for a few days, you can get a bit desensitized and numb to it. It's not as wonderful as it was the first day that you got into it. So to stop in an urban environment for a night, it kind of makes you appreciate it again when you get back into it.
Yeah,
just like being away from people for the day makes you appreciate them when you see them. So it's interesting.
Yeah. They say the kind of cheesy saying, you've got to be rained upon to appreciate the sunshine in a way, and
for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of that sentiment epitomised, and so it's interesting that you still build up that rapport on the Camino del Norte, and you still build up that rapport on while you're on a bike, which is lovely to hear. And for anyone that maybe doesn't have a month but still wants to do the whole thing, the bike is a good option, right?
100%. And I mean, it's so beautiful coasting down. For instance, a lot of the Norte, not a lot of it, but there's a fair bit that's on tarmac, and you're following the Camino, but you're coasting down at 40 kilometers an hour down a really smooth hill, surrounded by countryside, and then you emerge into a coastal path, which is a little bit tricky, but it's doable. And then you've got beautiful crashing waves. It's beautiful. It really is. I mean, it's beautiful on foot, but it's just as beautiful on a bike for sure. It really is. And I like to spend time on my own. I really do. And it's nice to be completely alone. For some days, I was almost completely alone during the day, going through a forest on a bike. You get a lot of time to think, and then of an evening, you can you can unpack that and share your experience, because everyone's experience is different, despite the fact that they're walking on the same road. It's completely different.
Maybe that's why people grow closer a lot quicker on the Camino as well, because you're all in the same boat.
Oh, you are. And I mean, the interesting thing is you're all going to Santiago, and or Finisterre or Muxia, but you're all going to Santiago, regardless of what your reasons are or where you started. You're all going to finish in Santiago, and that in itself is beautiful. So you've all got a very much a shared goal.
Share the same goal, yeah. So on the bike, you got all your gear stored in panniers on the side of your wheels, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was the one thing that you took with you that you never used, and you'd say to your fellow peregrinos that are going to walk the Camino or bike it, don't take that, you won't need it?
Oh, there were so many things I took. So many things, but mostly clothing items. But there were so many things. I mean, I always used my lock until I had to have it sawn off, because I locked it to something and lost the key. I always used my bike pump. Initially, I didn't take a puncture kit because I forgot to take it, and for the first 10 days, I got no punctures, and then I got 3, and then the next day I got 2 from thorns. So for cyclists, be very conscious of blackberry thorns. Every single one of my punctures was from them. But as for something I didn't need, there were so many things. Again, it goes back to traveling light. Just travel as if you were going on a beach holiday in Spain. You know, just a couple of pairs of shorts, a couple of t-shirts. So you need a warm, long. I mean, it depends, obviously, what time of year you go. You need a waterproof jacket and some waterproof trousers. But travel light, really. Look at what you're taking and then divide it by, take a quarter of what you're thinking of taking.
Yeah, I mean, for walkers, the guideline is 10% of your body weight to have, on your back kind of thing.
I had about 24 kg, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a lot, difficult. Man.
It was. I haven't weighed it. But the reason I think it's 24k, when I was carrying it through the airport, or when I was actually carrying the bag off the bike, wherever, it felt like a 24k weight. So I think that's around about what it was.
I mean, it's really interesting to hear the different approaches that everybody has, because I think one of our podcast guests, episode 12, I think it was, Alistair Wilson from Scotland, he was saying how he prepared so much that he actually had a suitcase of extras taxied between the towns and cities and villages that he was staying every day, just for, as a contingency. And it's quite interesting to see the different approach of you, Gabriel. You're just like, right, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to throw everything I think I might need into a bag. And, sometimes that approach is refreshing as well, for a first-time pilgrim, because obviously if you were to do it again, you would probably do things different. And
100%.
You're wiser now that you've done it. But yeah, it's interesting to hear the two different approaches. The one thing you took that you never used, basically you couldn't boil it down to one thing because you took lots of stuff. And you kind of did you manage to discard it along the way? Send it home, give it out to people?
Well, I had a nice pair of Reebok Classic, a nice pair of Reebok trainers that I liked to work out. They were my most comfortable trainers. Yeah. And one day, because my North Face track shoes were sodden, I had to wear them during the day, and they got completely saturated. So I had to leave them. Which was sad, but again, I think it teaches you about letting things go. So it is quite symbolic of why people do the Camino. There are things that you do need to let go in life that you don't need. For me, it was a pair of Reebok trainers. So yeah, I let them go. And the interesting thing about once I got rid of them, it was far easier to then pack up my stuff into my bag because there was so much more room. So it made things easier. So, but I've heard of people on foot, completely discarding a hell of a lot of stuff. So again, it comes back to what do you actually need? And if you do lose something or you need something, you're going to come into a big enough town at some point that you can buy it. or there'll be someone who can give it to you. People are very very generous.
Yeah, people do discard stuff along the way and leave stuff at Alberg, stuff they think they're not going to need, and you encounter stuff that, oh, okay, I've seen people leave pairs of boots behind and stuff like that. So, but it's interesting you say about, you do end up shedding some weight, and you end up shedding kind of one of your skins as well, and it brings
100%.
and it brings me back to an anonymous saying. I don't know who said this or where this came from, but the definition of happiness is removing negatives from your life. You remove some weight from your back, and you gain so much from that. And sometimes on the Camino you have realizations, insights while you're walking, while you're cycling. Was there something I just kind of want to touch on something you mentioned at the start of this chat, that you said you'd been under a period of stress with anxiety.
100%.
Did the Camino help you in any way with that?
It did, but what's interesting about it, I'd been off work for almost 6 months at that point. So I'd already had a time to reflect on what was important in life, and I'd begun to change. For instance, I'm into I meditate every morning now, and there's a number of other things that I'm into. I have become quite reflective. So I had been undergoing a period of change anyway, and then this came along just at the right time, and it helped me. It helped confirm to me that the changes I'd been making had been right, and the people that I met along the way, a lot of them had quit their jobs, or they were thinking of quitting their jobs, or they were undergoing a period of change. I'd say 90% of the people that I met on the way were in a similar boat. So the conversations we would have at night over a few glasses of wine, we were all on the same wavelength, which was really refreshing. But one thing I did learn, and it will stick with me, is that in reality, away from the trappings of materialism and Western culture, all we really need is food, shelter, and a sense of community. And that is very, very true. And I think if you have those three things, you can find happiness.
And that sense of community, you have it in abundance on the Camino.
100%. Really nice food, a simple. Going back to how you feel on the Camino, and it doesn't take long. All you really think about is what you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep, and where's your next destination going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I cannot agree more. I mean, when I walked my first Camino, I had like 3 words in my head, and that was food, water, and friends. That's all I want. That's all. Food, water, and friends. That's all I need. Food, water, and friends. In shelter, of course. I mean, there was the odd night where I'd like bunk down rough just because I was trying to make an adventure out of it. But I mean, the food, water, shelter, community. I mean, you just said that, and it's excuse me, it's put like tingles on my arms. Like it's like, yeah, that is exactly what it's all about. And because you are going back to basics, and I've said it before on this podcast, it is like when you reboot your computer to factory settings, all of a sudden your computer works like it's brand new again. And it's what the Camino does for you. It actually restores your factory settings, which are to just walk, or cycle, or do some kind of movement. We are born to move. Yeah. Our bodies are born to move. Food, water, friends, movement, and your comfort zone is reduced to those things, and I personally felt a sense of elation, a sense of happiness, which dwarfed anything I'd ever felt in my life.
It's true, and it's very, very true. I mean, there were most days where I was so high and elated by my experience, by nature.
Give me those goosebumps again, man. Yeah, you give me them goosebumps.
I know, but it was, and I was going along with a smile on my face, and everyone you bump into is so happy. You're having really good conversations, and obviously being English, and English being quite a widely spoken language, I could communicate with almost everybody, which was nice. I remember saying to some Spanish girl one day, "This is the best day of my life," and it actually was. I had such a really nice night in a donativo to Casa La Vega near Riba de Stella, I think that's how you say it, with this wonderful woman who cooked the most beautiful food, and there were only three of us staying there that night: a German guy, a Korean guy, myself, and this woman. And we ate as a family. And as soon as I got in there, and I was a little bit worried that night. Like you said, there's a couple of nights where, or there can be nights where you think, am I going to find somewhere to sleep tonight? Because one of the towns you're in, the albergue, is full or it's closed. So you take a risk getting to the next one. It's getting dark, and I had no lights on my bike. And anyway, you can have a couple of wild nights, but I didn't have to sleep rough at all. But I got to this albergue, and I was a bit concerned. It was about 7 or 8. It was starting to get dark, and I thought, am I going to find it? Anyway, I got there, and she welcomed me, and she said, listen, she said, for now, my house is your house. And we sat there, and we ate like a family. Couldn't really speak to the Korean guy, but I'd seen the German guy a couple of days before, so we had a really simple meal, had a really nice night's sleep. The next morning, over a coffee with the Korean guy, I was using Google Translate on my phone, and we were able to have a conversation, which was really magical, because I could see the night before he was very frustrated, and I was frustrated that we wanted to communicate, but we couldn't. And then I left there. I just felt as though my batteries were 100%. I was completely recharged, and I was ready to take on what it brought. And then I bumped into the Spanish girl, and I just said to her, I've had the best day of my life. It was, and it really was, genuinely. I've never felt such a raw joy.
Yeah, it's unfettered, isn't it? It's something, it's pure, and it does come from something so simple. And it is just a bit of movement, be it the great outdoors, fresh air, and obviously the sense of adventure, I think, does help facilitate that feeling of happiness. And happiness is just a feeling, it's fleeting. We can't always expect to be happy, but we can, bloody well try. And the Camino.
But you can choose to be happy, and you are the guardian of your own mind, and you can make a choice to be happy or not happy.
Without
and
a doubt.
That's something that you need to choose. And just to go on from that, and this is a sentiment that I've learned anyway, and it was a shared sentiment across most of the people that I spoke to on the Camino. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Don't regret the past. Just worry about, or just concentrate on what's happening right now. Enjoy what is all around you right now, and then you'll be okay.
And I'm guessing the meditation that you had started practicing before you went on the Camino would have helped you do that. And it sounds like the Camino for you helped you to confirm everything, all the changes that you'd made, like you said, were the correct ones, because you met kindred spirits on the Camino who
definitely
mirrored what you were thinking, what you were going through, and where you wanted to go afterwards. What path your life is going to take after the Camino, which for many is the hardest thing. I mean, I'm curious about how you, let's say, incorporated those insights from the Camino about, just wanting food, water, and food, shelter, and community, and how you incorporate that into everyday life as a civilian, because I found that really hard.
Well, what I did find out, and what was interesting is I kind of thought Santiago, and it does all lead in, and I will get to the point.
Yeah,
I kind of felt that Santiago was going to be an anticlimax and a bit of a disappointment for the fact that I'd had such a wonderful time on the journey, that I just couldn't see how it could live up to that. However, when I got to Santiago, it was overwhelming. It was fantastic, and I did shed a tear next to where the photograph is on Facebook, by the colourful Santiago sign. And then I had to leave, and I remember this American guy from New York. He said to me, I said it's quite sad that the journey's ended, and at that point I started to well up. And he said, the journey's just begun, kind of thing. Anyway, I shook his hand and I cycled off, and managed to compose myself. And then when I got into the square, I just broke down. It was just overwhelming. I mean, for anyone that hasn't been to that square in Santiago, it's giant. You just feel completely overcome by the energy, but the physical structure of the cathedral, it's massive, and it's overbearing. Anyway, after I did that, I got myself together and I got a couple of photographs. And then I had a period of about 2 hours where I felt completely and utterly lost. And it was crazy. I just felt as though the goal that I'd been attempting to reach, I'd attained it. And I felt really melancholy and strange. But after that, I started to bump into people that I'd seen, and then we went for a drink and what have you, and I felt fantastic. And as to how I can put these things into my daily life, I've realised that the job that I'm doing at the moment, I don't think there's any future in it for me. I don't think it suits me, and I think I've been doing a role that is adverse to how I want to be. I like to be nice to people, and they're nice to me. I believe in what goes around comes around. You know, simple things like this. And I want to be in a job that allows me to be free in how I am and how I interact with people. So there's definitely an escape plan hatching. And for sure, I would love to live in Spain. So these are the things I'm working on at the moment. And I'm going to continue to focus on getting some kind of online business or something off the ground where I'm not tied to a location. I certainly want to travel a lot more. I've met people in hostels that are using a site called Workaway, and they're literally just working their way around the world for little or no money, but they get bed and board for the night. And it goes back to what I was saying before. So long as you've got a roof over your head and something to eat and a sense of community, you can be happy.
So in terms of applying those lessons from what you've learned about yourself throughout your time building up to the Camino and your time on the Camino, confirming basically who you are and what makes you tick, it's given you the impetus to incorporate that into your post-Camino life by changing your job, becoming location independent, which is the professional goal, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
That's 100%. Like your professional...
I've wanted to do this.
Yeah. That's like your professional Santiago, yeah.
Definitely. I've wanted to do it for years, but I've never... I procrastinated a lot. But now that I've got a taste of the prize, now that I can see what beauty you can see on a daily basis, I know now that I really need to commit to doing it. And the winter's here, you know, winter's coming.
Yeah, tough.
I'm literally going to go to work, go to the gym, come home and focus on building a business.
Brilliant.
That's what it's about.
And something else you mentioned, I can't believe I just had some great line I was going to say to you there, Gabriel, and I just dropped it out of my head somehow.
What was
somehow.
It about?
It obviously wasn't that important because it's just gone out. But I was going to say, if you do want any help with moving to Spain, then for sure get in touch with me because I currently live in Spain. And in actual fact, I'm potentially planning on moving back to the UK because my wife is from Bolton, which is not too far from you.
Not too far, yeah.
She's a Bolton girl. She says Facebook instead of Facebook. But anyway, does make me chuckle, the Bolton accent. But anyway, I'm a Cockney, so what can I say? No legs to stand on. But yeah, if you do need some help with moving to Spain, I've lived in Spain for quite a while now. Just send me a message for some info, and I'll be happy to help.
I'll do that, definitely. Spain is a beautiful country. I've always felt at home there. My sister lives there. My mum's got a place there. I'd love to go there. Fantastic place.
Brilliant. Okay, so you've got that post-Camino professional and personal goal set out, and you're prepared to wake up every day just like you did on the Camino and, go tooth and nail to get it. So let's talk about a few of your favourites, a few quick fire questions now. Your favourite town or city on the Camino del Norte and why?
I really enjoyed Gijón, and I'll tell you why I enjoyed it. Now, I got there, and again, it comes back to a lack of trust, but I got to a place called the Gijón Surf Hostel, I think it was called, and it was great. So I've got there, and I said, anywhere I can put my bike, and the girl said, yeah, you can put it downstairs. There's a gym downstairs, so I put it downstairs. Anyway, long story short, I ended up locking it to this rack of wetsuits, and then I've gone to the toilet. As I stood up to flush the chain, for some reason, I got in my pocket, and the bike lock key flushed down the toilet, and it was gone. So I had to spend the next day waiting for the guy to whiz it off with a whizzer, hanging around with these surfers all day. And it was such an interesting insight into just surf life. in a Spanish surf resort. So Gijón for sure was one of my favourites, but
Okay,
there were so many.
So Gijón would be this one you've picked out as your favourite. You had a few.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you spent the day trying to pluck it from out the toilet, but I'm glad you.
No.
Glad you didn't do that one.
I had to let it go. It was gone.
It's gone. I had to let it go. We'll have one of those Camino lessons. Let it go.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Sorry for the frozen there. So you can. I'll try and delete that bit. Your favourite albergue and why?
My favourite albergue, and I recommend anyone, if you're on the Del Norte, go for it. It's called the Tu Casa La Vega, and it's just outside of Riba di Stella. I think that's how you say it. And again, the reason for it was she said that she cooked a different meal every day, and it was a very simple meal. It was like a spicy Mexican barley soup. Oh, it was delicious. And then a vegetarian chili. And she said no alarm clocks in the morning. She said just wake up when you wake up, kind of thing. There were bunk beds, but there were also single beds, which was one of the only single beds I've slept on the Camino. But it was just magical. It was like something out of Hansel and Gretel. It was really, really magical. So if you get a chance, to Casa La Vega, the Ribestella, I think that's what it's called.
Okay, I'll find that place and I'll put a link to it on our Facebook page.
Wonderful place.
Yeah,
and it's Donativo as well.
Right.
So, give what you like.
Give what you can. Brilliant. Okay, so Tu Casa La Vega, and we'll put a link to that on our Facebook page, El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast. Go on there and you'll see it. Was there a place you didn't stop but wish you did?
Yes. Are you familiar with the Camino del Norte?
Do you know what? I've never done the Camino del Norte, and it's really interesting chatting to you because it is going to be my next one, without a doubt.
It was called Lugo, I think it was Luego or Lugo. Oh, I can't remember the actual name of it, but it was a seaside town, and it was really, really nice. And I'd only done about 10k. I thought, I'd love to stay here, but I couldn't bring myself to it. I needed to do, about 40k or something. I'm sure it was called Luego. Clarify that. Google it when we finished and put the correct name, or I'll message you the correct name.
I've just found it. Yeah, I've just found it. It's called Lugo, yeah, and it's not too far away from Santiago.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it was called Lugo, not Lugo. It was called something like that. It was a really big seaside town, very up and down, with a really nice marina. It was fantastic. Really nice place. If I had a chance to get my book out, I could tell you. Let's carry on, and I'm going to grab my book.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And on the subject of books, the Camino del Norte book, the one with the seashell on the front with the blue cover, it's fantastic.
Is the author John Briley?
Matthew Harms.
Okay, Matthew Harms.
Dinterman and David Landis. Really nice book. But yeah, carry on and I'll find it.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I mean, if you can't dig it out, it's not a problem. But if you can, those that are walking the Camino del Norte will appreciate it.
Definitely.
So I think we've already covered talking about some lessons, from the road. But if you were to do something differently, if you were to walk or bike the Camino again, what would it be?
Just to go back to that, sorry, Luarca, it's called. Luarca, Luarca, fantastic place. Spend the night there.
Luarca, Luarca.
That's it, yeah.
Okay,
if I was to do something different, I'd do it on foot, and that's not to say I don't want to do it on bike. I'm going to do the Primitivo as soon as I get a chance, because it can be done quite easily, I've heard, in 2 weeks. If you're, fairly physically fit, which I am. So yeah, if I was going to do something different, I would do it on foot, just to get that extra connection that we were talking about earlier on. Yeah,
okay, brilliant. And what about a Spanish food or dish that you wished you could take home with you?
There were so many. Like I'm really into food. You
got to choose one. You have to choose one.
I will. I was in a place called Verano de Santos, I think it was called, and there was a little pub over the road, and I went in there, and it was just kind of like a beef stew, very simple, slow cooked beef with potatoes and gravy, and it was absolutely delicious. Really nice. So it was just a simple beef stew.
So look out for the Spanish beef stew. You can take the boy out of
Definitely.
Liverpool, but not the Liverpool out of the boy.
It was fantastic. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean that, you know, in the morning, the tortilla española, you know, you know, the big wedge of tortilla that you get in the morning with your
Isn't it
café con
great?
leche. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
But they put it on your plate, and you think, wow, it's a little bit unusual. But once you eat it, and it's slightly warm in the middle, very subtle oniony flavour, delicious.
Yeah, and it's like silky as well. You know, they make it. It's not like chunky kind of crunchy potato. It's silky. It's so nice. Love it. Obviously, the café con leche in the morning is always a lovely way to wake up.
And tomato toast.
Oh, yeah. Okay, lovely. That's a good one. I said you had to choose one. We've ended up saying 5. Just going on about it. It's, yeah, I mean, I used to live in Barcelona, and I think it's just pan con tomate is what it is. But it's like, it doesn't sound too exciting, but it is, believe me, because what they do is they get the bread. And
it's just simple. And going back to pan, the bread that they have in Spain is unreal.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah. It's, again,
really nice.
It's a bit silky as well, you know. You sometimes get that doorstep bread in England. It's like you nearly break your teeth biting into it. But yeah, that pan con tomate, they just rub the tomato over it. Then they put some extra virgin olive oil on it, and then some sea salt, and it is amazing. You dip that in some oil. Yeah, you're having the time of your life. Simple things, eh?
There, don't they? Nice to live out there.
Most important word to know in Spanish.
Well, 2 words. Buen camino. Buen camino.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's the easiest way to connect and the best icebreaker. For you, what was the hardest part of the Camino?
There were a couple of days where it really rained hard, and there were only a couple. And I was on my bike coming through a town called Monteladeo, I think it was called, and they had a fiesta on. And I was completely saturated. My bike was completely muddy. There were all these people getting out of cars for the fiesta, well dressed, felt good. And I've said this to a few people, but at that point, I felt like an actual pilgrim. And I know we all are pilgrims anyway, but I really had, I think, a connection to what they must have felt like. I felt dirty. I felt out of place. I wanted to stop for a coffee, but I felt so out of place. I had to move on to the next town. It was difficult. And then I've gone past a bus stop, and there was this guy there. He just looked completely broken, a pilgrim. So I've gone in and I was chatting to him. His name was Lorenzo from Italy. And we had a very short conversation. And I said, anyway, I'm going to crack on. I said, come to this hostel in Aberdeen. He said, okay. He said, I'll probably see you later. So I've turned around, and then I'm pushing my bike up this massive ascent. And if you look at the ascent into Aberdeen, I think it was the highest ascent on the whole Norte. We were just going up and up and up and up. And I was pushing it. And then he appeared next to me. We were talking for about 40 minutes, which for me was the longest conversation I've had during the daytime on the Camino. And it was really, really, really difficult. Anyway, got to the top of the hill after about 40 minutes, and I've left him downhill, got to Aberdeen. I was completely and utterly soaked through to my skin. I mean, I've got a waterproof jacket, but it had gone past that point. I was saturated. The guy from the albergue, and again, there's one in Aberdeen. I think there's only one in Aberdeen. Stay there if you can. Really nice, bright, fresh, clean. He said, come in. He said, let me take care of your bike. He said, don't worry about reception. He said, you just go and shower yourself, get yourself ready, come back in an hour. He said, whenever you're ready, just get yourself together. And again, just that little act of kindness made me feel human again. There's a couple of people there. And then as the night went on, the Italian guy turned up and he cooked us a really nice, he said his mum's special pasta recipe. I made a nice baguette, and we all shared a really nice evening together. And out of them, it was one of the most special evenings. I think because we were all completely broken, and then over the course of the night, we began to feel human again and shared a good evening.
It's those moments on the Camino, those hard moments, and it's a great story you just shared there. It's part of the character building and the skin shedding, I think.
Definitely. I mean, I got a bit of a lump in my throat when I was saying it then, because it was. I mean, these things are going to stay with me. They're definitely going to stay with me. And I know you go on a nice holiday, for instance, to you can go on an all-inclusive to Mexico and you can have a great time, frolicking by the beach and what have you. And then you get back and you've still got a good feeling and it slowly subsides. But you're not going to get this magic. I mean, it's touched me in my heart. 100%, and that's not going to go.
Yeah,
definitely not.
I think it's hard work for the body, but a holiday for the spirits. That's how I would describe it. So
definitely.
So we're just going to tie this up. Just by asking one last question, and that is, imagine that your pre-Camino self is worried. You're in that point where you still haven't decided to go. And that pre-Camino version of yourself is about to have a conversation with the post-Camino version of yourself. What is the post-Camino version of yourself going to say to the pre-Camino version to convince him to go?
Get the time, book a flight, and just do it. Don't think about it. If you've only got 2 weeks and you haven't got a bike, do the Primitivo. If you've got 4 to 5 weeks, do the El Norte, do the France. But do it.
Why?
Because it's fantastic, because it's life-changing, because you'll meet so many wonderful people, because it'll restore your faith in humanity, because it's a unique and wonderful experience, unlike anything you'll find anywhere else. That's why.
Gabriel, I could not agree more. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for nearly an hour of your time this morning. I'm really, really grateful. It's been such a wonderful chat. And not only have you given so many useful and practical tips for your fellow peregrinos that are listening, but also it's lovely to hear what the Camino did for you and how you grew out of it, getting to know yourself, and also, that it did restore your faith in humanity, as you've just wonderfully put there. And I could not agree more. So, Gabriel Brocklesby from Liverpool, thank you so much for your time. Buen Camino.
It's been a pleasure. Buen Camino. Thank you.
Wandering wanderer, adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer.